Hello, this is Good Morning Transfers. What a 24 hours it's been for Tottenham. One player in, it's about to be two. Ange Postecoglou wanted a centre-back. He's set to sign Radu Drăgușin in the next 24 hours. We're expecting confirmation of Jadon Sancho's move to Borussia Dortmund soon. Plus, could we see Jordan Henderson playing for Ajax? The latest on his future to come. So here's what to look forward to today. First up, we'll bring you up to speed with Tottenham's pursuit of Radu Drăgușin. At 9:15, we're asking what do Chelsea need to do, and do they need a striker specifically? 9:30, the latest on Kylian Mbappe's future. Then at 9:45, we're asking you for your best ever loan deals. That is hashtag transfer talk on X. Your best ever loan deals in any league, in any country as well. OK, talking of great signings, we've made one. It's a debut for Ellen Ellard. We are delighted to have you with us. And we've got transfer stalwarts as well in Dave Reed and Nabeed Haroum. Welcome to everybody watching on the Sky Sports Premier League YouTube channel. We're going to start with a fascinating story involving Radu Drăgușin. Tottenham have won the battle to sign him after a dramatic 24 hours of negotiations. Right, Dave, bring us right up to speed, start at the start and end with what happened a few minutes ago.
I'm still reeling from being called a stalwart there. I don't know how that compares to anybody else, but
stalwart can
is that
still
a good thing?
A stalwart can still be young.
Right, OK, thanks very much. I'm glad you've clarified.
Experience,
that.
You can still be young and experienced.
OK, we'll leave that there. Drăgușin, yes, this has kind of come to life this morning. It looks like Spurs are going to get this deal done, but let me take you back, because Tottenham have been tracking this player for a significant period of time. This is the first transfer window for the new technical director, Johan Lange, and they're getting deals done quickly and early. That was the priority in this transfer window for Tottenham Hotspur. Spurs have been in talks with Genoa over the player for the last 10 days at least. There was a little bit of a gap in valuation to start with, but I think there was every expectation that the deal was going to happen. Then last week, Napoli in Serie A, they decided, well, we'd like to have a little look at the player, offered a cash plus player bid, and then we've seen over the last 48 hours, really, Bayern Munich's interest really step up. Now, the German team have been looking at Drăgușin for a significant period of time as well, but it's only really in the last 48 hours that their interest has accelerated and has been moved on into an official offer stage. They made an offer which was actually a little bit higher than Tottenham's. Tottenham made another offer as well, which was very, very close to Genoa's asking price, which also involved Jed Spence being involved as part of that deal on loan. And now it was essentially up to the player to decide whether he wanted to go to Bayern Munich, whether he wanted to go to Tottenham. Slept on it last night, and he's decided this morning that it's going to be Tottenham. There's going to be a medical schedule. He's going to be flying into the capital this afternoon.
Yeah, and Ellen, Tottenham will be delighted about this. How much do they need him?
Yeah, absolutely fits the profile of what Ange Postecoglou wants in his team. They needed support, as we know, in that centre-back position. Christian Romero, Mickey van der Ven out with injuries. They've both suffered with injuries across the season. They've been playing players out of position, fullbacks Ben Davies and Emerson Royale in central defence. So this was a position that they'd targeted. They needed to cover those injuries in the back line. Bayern, we've spoken about it a lot, you know, when we're weighing up these two options. And obviously, you know, as we spoke about, he had the option himself and he slept on it overnight. They have Upamecano, De Ligt, Kim Min-jae, who's out at the Asian Cup with South Korea at the minute. But they have more options there. I think obviously there's the talk of Eric Dyer and the potential move from Spurs over to the Bundesliga. Bayern wanted a centre-back. For me, Spurs needed him more.
Why do you think he chose Tottenham, Nabeed?
I'd imagine mainly for game time. Obviously, Kim Min-jae is currently away at the Asia Cup, but so it's Upamecano and De Ligt together at centre-back. You'd assume when he's back in, he's now the fourth choice. At 21 years of age, you want to play football, you want to play minutes. At Spurs, they have Romero's in and out the side, currently injured, obviously, for about 4 or 5 weeks. And then Van der Ven. So you'd assume he's got a better chance of playing first-team football. And then, of course, whatever happens with Eric Dyer, we'll find out later in the window. Ben Davies has been tucking in, as Ellen said. So I feel as though it's probably for minutes. He does want to play in the Premier League. And then, of course, as Dave just mentioned there, Spurs have made a better offer.
I think he wanted to go to Spurs for a long time, and then the Bayern Munich interest has kind of thrown things a little bit last minute. But I can't imagine being faced with that decision when it's a 50-50 between...
Not a bad one choice to have.
It's not a bad one.
Two big
It's
clubs.
not a bad one. You would expect the financial package to be fairly similar, but it's not often that you get the opportunity to not only play in the Premier League, but also to play for one of the biggest clubs in the world, in Bayern Munich. So, yeah, tough decision for him, but it looks like Spurs have won it.
Also, he is 21, so it feels like if he is the level of defender that we've spoken about, then he probably, in his mind, knows at some point Bayern might come back in for him again. Not to say Spurs is a stepping stone before Spurs fans get onto me, but it's definitely a move where you think he's 21 years of age, plays plenty of football in the Premier League. If he reaches the level we expect, then Bayern will probably be back for him again.
So good news for Tottenham, but also, Ellen, good news for Jed Spence.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when I saw the move that Bayern had made last night, I think a lot of people would have been watching that, obviously, with Drăgușin in mind and where he would fit in at Spurs, but also with Jed Spence as well. He's been in limbo slightly since he had this brilliant spell at Nottingham Forest, which caught so many eyes. He won Young Player of the Season in the EFL and really staked his claim as someone to watch. Went off to Leeds at the start of the season on loan, struggled with injuries, just really didn't get started completely. Only made 7 appearances in a position that wasn't completely natural to him. And then Leeds triggered a clause in the contract to send him home early. I think he'll benefit from the fresh start. I think, this is a good option, a good opportunity for him to go and prove himself abroad, get that fresh start that he needs, and an opportunity for him to prove himself as well. So, because he doesn't want to be, he's still a young player, doesn't want to be stuck in limbo. I think regardless of whether I would have taken him on loan and that deal would have gone through, we would have still seen him move this window. I think he would have gone maybe to a different Championship club, a League One club, on loan. Low on bodies as well. They need players, so this works for all parties. Yeah,
it does. And for Eric Dyer, Nabeed, Sky in Germany is saying that he is now Bayern's #1 target now that they haven't got Drăgușin. So again, Tottenham benefit by getting Drăgușin. Jed Spence benefits by getting a great loan out to Serie A. And now it looks like Eric Dyer is going to benefit by going to Bayern Munich.
This is what good morning transfers lives for. We've got players moving left, right and centre, and rumours left, right and centre. I think for Eric Dyer, in the end, it felt like his Spurs days were very numbered. Emerson Royal and Ben Davies have been preferred over him. As Ellen said, you've got a right-back and a centre-back preferred to play centre-back over an actual centre-back. And then, as we said, Bayern currently have 3 centre-backs. One's currently away. And it feels as though Eric Dyer, I'd imagine if Bayern came calling, he's not going to say no. I do feel for him. I think there's been times in his Spurs tenure where people have suggested he's one of their better defenders. I think he's sort of fallen down the pecking order, and just recently made some comments about him as well, which it does feel like the writing's been on the wall for quite a while now.
Right, so one incoming on the way with Drăgușin at Tottenham, but there's another one which was actually done last night because Timo Werner signed on loan for 6 months. The deal has an option to buy for around £15 million. This is what he's had to say about the move.
Talk with the manager, I think it was a really, really good talk. He gave me straight away the feeling what I need to join a club, what I want to feel when you talk to a manager. Aim to come back here was to fight for another win in this league and also maybe for titles. When I joined my old club, I also said I want to be a winner and I want to win titles at the end. At the end, we won the Champions League, so I think it should be not too bad to say I come here to also win titles and to win something.
So Timo Werner in a Tottenham shirt, having previously worn a Chelsea shirt. We're going to get on to that in a moment, actually. But in terms of Werner going to Tottenham, what will he bring, Dave?
Well, I think if all transfers start with 100% risk, it's down to the recruitment teams to tick off the list of how to lower and mitigate that risk. And I think Timo Werner starts to bring that threshold down when you think about a player with international experience, top-level experience, Champions League experience, has already played in the Premier League. That ticks one box for someone who knows what to expect when he pulls on a Tottenham shirt against Manchester United this weekend. He's a player with a point to prove. That's another tick box to lower the threshold on risk as well. He wants to play for Germany at the European Championships. He's fit and available. I think that's another tick box for Tottenham. He fits a position that they are going to be missing for the next couple of weeks, few weeks, when Heung-min Son's away at the Asian Cup. And I think the price as well is another way to bring down the risk. It's a good loan fee and it's a pretty good, I'm going to say cheap in inverted commas because it's obviously a lot of money, but a 15 million purchase option I think is a good price for Tottenham. So when you factor in all those kind of factors, then I think it lowers the risk for Tottenham. And if he gets 5 goals between now and the end of the season, that's a massive success for Spurs and a massive success for Timo Werner.
But we mentioned there that he has played for one of Tottenham's rivals in Chelsea, and that made us think, OK, well, how many players have played for two different rivals? And we're going to go through a few now with kind of a bit of a quiz amongst ourselves that you can play along with at home. So Nabeed, Dave and Ellen have got someone in their mind. They're going to give a few clues and see if the rest of us can guess who they're talking about here. The only stipulation is you've got to play for two different rivals, like Timo Werner, now that he's signed for Tottenham, is doing, having played for Chelsea. Right, Nabeed, you're first. Give us some clues.
I feel like this is a very easy one. He's played for two sets of rivals, one in Spain, one in Italy.
I think I've got it already.
Oh,
Go on,
really?
Keep going, keep going. I might be wrong. I'll admit if I'm wrong.
World Cup winner, twice.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyone? No? He's played for Madrid, Barcelona, AC
Inter.
Milan and Inter.
Yeah, and Brazil.
And, of course, Brazil.
Imagine if we've gone for the same players. That's my way.
Oh, yeah, because we couldn't discuss this because we didn't know what each other had, so we actually couldn't discuss this pre-match. But am I allowed to guess?
Yeah, I guess.
I'll take it you've got it as well.
No.
Dave, Ellen,
The original Ronaldo, surely.
R9 Ronaldo. Guys, please.
R9
greatest.
Ronaldo. That's a great. You know what? It's going to be difficult to beat that one for how good he was and the fact that those clubs you've mentioned. So Ronaldo, OK, well, not that we weren't going to count score, but as I'm 1-0 up, we are going to count score now.
Pressure.
Right, I'm winning. Right, go on then, Dave.
Well, I kind of went for the Real Madrid-Barcelona connection as well. So this player transferred between the two Spanish giants.
I know it, I've got it.
I've got it.
In the year 2000. And it was so dramatic, it was so seismic, this transfer, that they even made a Netflix documentary about this transfer. It was probably the move that has moved football into a new era of transfer fees, a new era of superstardom as well, I would say. So that was my rival transfer move.
Tom's desperate for the points.
No, I'll let you have it. I know that Ellen's got it as well. I'll let Nabeed get it, but he got some things thrown at him whilst taking a corner as well. For,
He did, yes.
For his new side. Go on then, Nabeed.
Luis Figo.
Correct.
Luis
yeah,
Figo. In fairness, we all had that one, so I'm taking 2-1 lead here. With one to play, right, Ellen?
I'm going for a curveball with this one. This player is a lioness, and she has done something that Peter Beardsley has also completed when it comes to playing for rivals in a certain area of the country.
I've got a confession. Ellen asked me if she was allowed to do this one, so I know the answer. All right,
Well, that feels a little bit
so-
unfair, doesn't it?
So Nabeed, you can draw 2-2 with me here. Dave, you're trying to get off the mark.
This was always my concern. It was always my concern going into this.
Anyone got it?
I'd love for Dave to just have a guess.
Currently, so I'll go with. I think I'll try.
By the way, you get
Should I give an
2
extra cue?
points if no one can get it. So Ellen could be drawing level.
Right, I'm not going to give any extra clues.
Go on,
then.
give them
I'm
one
tapping
extra
out.
clue. Go on.
Okay, started her career at Everton, now plays for Manchester City.
Oh, I know who it is, but
But you obviously don't.
There is a massive picture of her just over there.
yeah.
That's a pretty big clue.
Come on,
Go on,
tell
Ellen.
us.
Go on, Ellen. You got your 2 points.
It is Alex Greenwood.
Alex Greenwood. That was a good. Ellen, on your debut, you managed to stump them, so well done. By the way, I know some of you have been tweeting in your guesses there. Just so you know, later on we're going to be discussing best ever loan signings again to do with this Timo Werner deal to Tottenham. We want to hear from you. Hashtag transfer talk on X, and we'll read some of those out and discuss them as well. And the panel have all come up with one as well each. Right now, a reminder, if you are out and about, you can keep across all the latest deals and transfer stories on our Transfer Centre blog. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. Now, 2 lines to bring you from the Championship. Hull are expected to complete the loan signing of Fabio Carvalho from Liverpool today. And Luke Ayling, he's having his medical at Middlesbrough today, ahead of a 6-month loan deal from Leeds. Low still to come. Chelsea struggled in front of goal last night. How badly do they need to sign a striker this month? We will discuss that next. Welcome back to Good Morning Transfers. Time to take a look at some of the stories making the back pages. We're going to start with The Independent. They report that Newcastle will reject any January offers from Paris Saint-Germain for 26-year-old Brazil midfielder Bruno Guimaraes. Now, The Sun report that Aston Villa midfielder Philippe Coutinho, who's on loan at Qatari side Al Juel, will join Inter Miami. And finally, in the Daily Mail, they say that former Chelsea and Manchester United midfielder Nemanja Matic wants a return to the Premier League. Amid reports he's unhappy at French side Rennes. Right, so that rounds up some of the stories making the back pages today. But now to Manchester United and Jadon Sancho. His loan move to Borussia Dortmund is close to being completed. The final details on his contract are being concluded. Confirmation actually should come soon. Right, Ellen, what we've been asking for the last couple of weeks really is this a good move for all parties?
Absolutely, 100%. He absolutely thrived under Edin Terzic, who was interim manager the last time he was there. He played a key role in his development, so the manager knows what he's getting in a player. Manchester United, as we well know, unable to resolve the issues surrounding the falling out between the player and Ten Hag. Exiled from first team training to the extent where reports are saying that he's been having his lunch brought to him in boxes away from the canteen. So that's the extent to which he's out of the squad. I think this is actually a really good example of Manchester United being proactive. They're looking ahead to the future. In the past, in recent years, we've seen them acting reactively. This time they're looking forward, sending out the player who, like we said, left out first team training. We don't know where his fitness is at. He's been training with one of the coaches from the youth team, as we said, well away from the squad. So they're taking this proactive stance. I think, like I said, really good move. He needs to get back up to fitness, though, and quickly. And that is why I think Borussia Dortmund fans would be quite disappointed that this hasn't gone through quicker, because he needs to link up with the team. They need to have a look at, assess at how quickly they can get him playing. So I think, yeah, like I said, he needs to get out there. This needs to go through quickly so he can link up with the warm weather training camp in Marbella. And that will be the priority, assessing his fitness when he's out with Dortmund.
OK, so it looks like that deal is edging closer and closer. Let's get to Chelsea now. A disappointing result last night, losing 1-0 away at Middlesbrough in the first leg of the League Cup semi-final. Chelsea had 18 shots, 5 on target. And after the game, Mauricio Pochettino said they weren't clinical enough. So, when you hear that, Nabeed, you think surely they need a striker.
I mean, they've spent a lot of money, but the one area they've just simply not resolved or improved is probably up front. Nicholas Jackson this season currently underperforming his XG by 3.6. Armando Broja 1.1, and then of course Nkunku, who's in and out of the side and is injured again. So there's an area there where I think Chelsea are actually, I think even Pochettino said it, they played well against Middlesbrough, which doesn't sound good because it's Middlesbrough and Chelsea should be winning. But they have actually played very well in a lot of games. But the problem has been once the ball's in the box, they just can't put it in the back of the net. And they've tried Sterling there. Cole Palmer played there against Middlesbrough, missed 3 very good chances. And maybe we sit here and say, if they win 3-1, they're fine without a striker. But I think the reality is they need a clinical front man who can take them further up the Premier League table. And also someone who resolves the issues that they have against teams like Middlesbrough. Because they miss too many chances and you leave that game now thinking, well, they need a result at home. And if they don't win that, I mean, Pochettino's going to be in trouble.
You think he'll be in trouble?
If they don't beat Middlesbrough in the second leg, absolutely he'll be in trouble, I think.
Again, in this quarter-final, they were constantly on the attack, but without actually creating any chances, which, again, would a striker solve that? I mean, what are the current options, Dave?
I mean, Nabeed's gone through some of them there, but Cole Palmer started in the forward line last night, but Nkunku has had the injury problems, and when he does eventually come back to full fitness, they're going to have to manage his way back in. It's a similar situation for Broja, who has had injury problems, and I think that the consensus is that his minutes are being managed at the moment rather than having to chuck him in for 90 minutes twice a week. But Nico Jackson as well, he's now going to be away. So they are short of numbers, and as Nabeed says, it's an area that they do look light in. I mean, you were discussing on the show yesterday, and it got quite heated between Kwaku
and Sam,
didn't it? That, you know, Chelsea just need to not spend money, according to Sam, and just stay calm and kind of ride out this wave. But, you know, Kwaku was quite right in saying that, you know, Chelsea aren't good enough in that final third at the moment. So it's just a case of how they balance the books. You know, when Ian Maatsen goes out to Borussia Dortmund and extends his contract, that's not bringing in a hefty transfer fee, so that's not going to help them out if they want to bring
Probably
players in.
not huge wages off
Exactly.
the bill you wouldn't expect just because of his age.
So it might be a case that Chelsea are a little bit hamstrung in this window.
Yeah, potentially. Nabeed, I know you've been looking back at the summer signings, but also the amount of injuries Chelsea have had as well.
Yeah, I think the perception around Chelsea is that they're not playing well, and I don't think many people have spoken about their injuries, but they have had a little bit of an injury crisis. And also, you've got to think about the signings that they've made. They've made a lot of big signings. They've got to bed those players in, and Pochettino has been left with players that ultimately haven't been available often enough. Here, you've got all the signings above 35 million that they've made. And if you just look at the bottom there, Wesley Fofana hasn't played a single minute this season. £80 million centre-back. They've conceded 31 Premier League goals this season. Romeo Lavia, another one that people are talking about this midfield not having any balance with Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez. I completely agree. The balance is right down there. Again, hasn't played any minutes. And Nkunku, who Pochettino has often said they tried to build an attack around him. He's only played 130 minutes this season. He's once again injured. And just as you go further up the list, you come here with Enzo Fernandez. And of course, he started 15 games this season, 1,266 minutes. But over the course of the season, that only averages to 63 minutes per game. That's your big signing, your £106 million signing. And then, of course, Caicedo has underperformed, you'd say. Axel Disasi has been playing at right back. He's played at left back. He's played left centre-back, right centre-back. So they've had a lot of problems in that sense. And then you come to injuries. And I mean, this is their current injury list at the moment. And a lot of people will say Manchester United have injury problems. Of course they do. But Chelsea are missing first-teamers. Wesley Fofana is in there, Romeo Lavia, as I mentioned. Both their wing-backs. This is a big problem. That's your captain and your vice-captain have not been available this season. So Pochettino's in a situation where not only has he had new signings come in, he's got to get them performing, he's got to get them playing well. He's then also had injuries on top of that to players that he would play every single week. And on top of that, there's the pressure that he's Chelsea Football Club manager, and they've spent a lot of money. So ultimately, I do feel a little bit sorry for Mauricio Pochettino. Of course, they need to improve on results. But until they don't get Reece James, Ben Chilwell back, even Robert Sanchez, the rotating goalkeepers this season, I don't think you can truly judge Pochettino's progress as Chelsea manager.
Yeah, and it's interesting there what Nabeed was seeing, and also what Dave said, Ellen, about how Ian Maatsen, okay, when he goes out on loan, it doesn't bring any money in. If Chelsea do need to let players go, who could leave?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one because I think it was something we spoke about yesterday. Pochettino has said that he wouldn't be limited to bringing players in only once he's let players go. So sort of the order of which this could happen, it's interesting. It will be interesting to see how it plays out. You've mentioned that Ian Maatsen up on the injury list. We saw Trevor Chalobah, obviously injured. Two players that Pochettino hasn't been able to work into the squad. Maatsen is a player that I absolutely love. Watched him a lot for Burnley last season. And he's just such a joy to watch. And it's been a shame that he hasn't been able to fit into the Chelsea team as much as, people who watched him last season and Chelsea fans would like. They've used him in a different way. He can play up in various positions up the left-hand side. For Burnley, he was just playing as a left-back, so he hasn't had the consistency of starts and also, one set position as well. Due to be having his medical today in Dortmund. Reportedly had interest from other clubs in England as well, but he said himself that, reportedly that he wanted to look around for opportunities abroad. Still a very young player. I think he'll be a great asset to Dortmund, playing regular football, with a club that, as we've mentioned about with Sancho, leads the way in bringing out the best of young talent, still only 21. So obviously he's one that we'll be watching in probably the next day or so for confirmation of that move. Lots of talk, as we've heard over the past couple of weeks, around the captain, Conor Gallagher, the man wearing the armband. Decisions being made on the pitch. It's very clear that the manager likes him and would want him to stay. But we do know that he represents a pure profit if he's sold. His stats are incredible, though. Within the club, first on assists, most tackles won and most passes into the final third. So if he does go, I think it will be a big loss. But there'll be clubs who are eyeing up those stats and will be thinking that he'll be a good get.
Right, so that is Chelsea. But how about this? Ajax have an interest in Jordan Henderson, but it will be a financial challenge for them to agree a deal. The Dutch club want an experienced central midfielder this month. Right, so Dave, from Jordan Henderson's point of view, how much of an attractive option is Ajax?
It depends how eager he is to leave Saudi Arabia, I would say. you know, if he's desperate, there's a temptation to take any offer that's on the table. That's if there's multiple offers on the table for Jordan Henderson. We simply don't really know who is going to be looking at Jordan Henderson, particularly in England, to bring him back to the Premier League. For Ajax, you can see the attraction. I mean, their average age is the lowest in the Eredivisie by a million miles. They had a terrible start to the season. We were talking about Ajax potentially getting relegated as kind of recent as October, really. They changed head coaches. Their form has turned around a little bit. But if he goes into that middle and midfield, he's going to be working with players who are 10 years younger than him at least, and he's the one that's going to be trying to bring them along. I think, you know, when you look at signing Jordan Henderson, it's not just what he brings on the pitch as well. And we heard from Ian Foster, the new Plymouth manager, who was assistant to Steven Gerrard at El Ettifaq yesterday here on Sky Sports News, and he was saying, you know, off the pitch, he is the best player he's ever worked with. His qualities off the pitch, you know, his leadership, the way he carries himself, the way he interacts with other players, staff around the training ground as well. That's the best player he's ever worked with, and that is what you get with Jordan Henderson. So if Ajax managed to pull the finances together for this, which is a massive if, what he does get is probably not Champions League football for next season, which he's got to think about, but he does get the facilities, he does get a world-renowned football club, and somewhere which isn't that far away from the UK.
Well, Nabeed, talking of the UK, he has specifically said he wants to move back to the Premier League. Where can he realistically go in the Premier League?
I mean, he also did say when he left Liverpool he wouldn't play for another Premier League club. So he has that problem. But it ultimately comes down to clubs that can afford him. If he was to move to, say, I don't know, someone lower down to maybe a West Ham, he'd have to take a huge wage cut. So then you're looking at Man City, Newcastle, Chelsea have been linked, which I cannot believe. Chelsea are considering removing Conor Gallagher and bringing in Jordan Henderson. So he will always have options because he's a Premier League winner, he's a Champions League winner, he's a phenomenal leader, as Dave just said there. And he's someone that I think comes with a lot of pedigree. The problem will be, is he willing to take a wage cut from what he's on at the moment? And it will be a very large wage cut. And also, is he willing to compromise his statement around not playing for another Premier League club? I don't feel like it would be very well received by Liverpool fans if he did go and play for a Chelsea or a Man City.
I don't think it's very realistic, but I think when you look at teams that would need him, Chelsea, if you're getting rid of, well, I say getting rid of, like if you've got, you know, rumours around the captain, but then also there's just a lack of experienced leaders, a lack of size in that team. Jordan Henderson would fit that, but is it likely, you know, the wages? I don't think so.
Right, well, remember, we're talking about your best ever loans next in any league around the world. Get them in, #TransferTalk on X. But before that, we'll be discussing Kylian Mbappe's future. Will he be staying at Paris Saint-Germain?
Welcome back to Good Morning Transfers. Now, strikers, they are hard to come by in the January window, but one player who definitely wants to play in the top division is Southampton's Che Adams. Now, 3 Premier League teams are interested in signing him in the next couple of weeks. His contract expires in the summer. He scored 4 goals in his last 7 games for Southampton. Abaid, how's he been getting on in the Championship?
He's one of these players that I think a lot of people look at and think, what does he bring to the team? One thing for sure, his work rate, his pressing is outstanding, and also he's done pretty well this season. 22 games, 6 goals, 2 assists. I think he has this reputation in the Championship that he's a guy who can get you goals, and I think we're going to talk about him in the Premier League. His stats aren't bad either.
Yeah, and just looking at his Championship stats there, that's pretty decent. And then if we look at the Premier League stats as well, now it was Wolves and Everton that had been interested in him, and he almost did make the move in the summer transfer window. And this is probably, well, it is Southampton's last opportunity now to get some cash in the bank for Che Adams. And I think for him personally, hoping to be in the Scotland European Championship squad this summer. I don't think he started their last 2 Euro qualifiers, so playing in the Premier League is going to benefit him on the international stage as well.
For sure. Also, one of the stats that was just on there was 25% chance conversion. I think Haaland's last season was 22%. So I'm not saying Che Adams is Erling Haaland, but his conversion rate suggests he does take chances. And as you said, he wants to be on the international scene. I think he's typically done pretty well for Scotland as well. I think you mentioned Everton and Wolves. Dominic Calvert-Lewin's injury record isn't brilliant. Beto hasn't really settled. And then as for Wolves, I just want to very quickly say, I was on Saturday Social and I suggested Che Adams should go to Wolves. Wolves fans were fuming that they watched a 55-minute video and they had to wait for Che Adams. But it turns out this might end up being a decent signing.
So make sure you tune into Saturday Social for more of that from Debate, Tom.
Yeah, Che Adams, Ellen, I know that you've seen a lot of him. I mean, can Southampton replace him? Can they afford to let him go, given that they're aiming for automatic, not playoffs? They're going to get playoffs regardless.
Yeah, I think, they're in that battle. The top of the Championship is tasty this season. The teams that are up there, the battles, the games that we're seeing, I've absolutely loved watching the Championship this season. I think Southampton will look at it as an opportunity to make money. This is the last chance they've got to make a good bit of money from him. As the guy said, he wants to play in the top tier. He wants to put himself in the best position for the Euros in Scotland. Since he did struggle when they were in the Premier League the last season in particular. It could be, a good move from him. We saw the team, Southampton, they blocked a proposed loan move from Wolves over summer. But I think they'll just look at an opportunity to get some money.
Yeah, they've been very unlucky that they've spent £10 million on Ross Stewart, who's a brilliant striker, but ends up injured until the end of the season. So a bit of bad luck there for Southampton. They could, of course, lose Che Adams. Now, PSG President Nasser Al-Khelaifi has reiterated his desire for Kylian Mbappe to stay at the French club and says it is the best place for the forward. Mbappe has 6 months to run on his contract and says he has not made up his mind about his future amid long-term interest, as we know, from Real Madrid. Right, OK, what has Nasser Al-Khelaifi said, Dave?
Yeah, so he's given an interview to RMC Sport, which is a French outlet, and this is what he's had to say. He says, I have a good relationship with Kylian. He's a big player, personality and man. He said after the Trophy du Champion game, he has an agreement with me. I don't want to get it out there. He knows what it is. I don't want to talk about money and what the agreement is about. He went on to say it's not an agreement about money, it's a gentleman's agreement between the player, the president of the club, the sporting director and the coach. It's more than just a signed agreement. I absolutely want Kylian to stay. So that's what Al-Khelaifi said. Of course he wants Kylian Mbappe to stay. He's one of the most marketable players and one of the best players on the planet. How much weight does a gentleman's agreement hold?
I was about to say, we've been here before with a gentleman's agreement, haven't we?
It's one of those where, of course, at the end there, he says, I want him to stay. But everything else in that statement feels like he's almost saying we've shook hands and eventually we've come to some sort of conclusion. Surely the conclusion isn't going to be another 5-year deal or something like that. So it's a very interesting quote.
Well, Ellen, specifically this month, then, what do you see happening?
Nothing. I think we'll be in
we need transfers. We need transfers.
People at home.
I know. I genuinely think we'll be in the position where we're hearing more of these quotes. More of these quotes will come out, but I think by the end of the month we'll be none the wiser as to what summer will look like for him.
I've got a feeling you might be right, Ellen. But Nabeed, what about in the summer? What do you think will happen then?
We're going to see transfers, hopefully. I'd imagine the eventual outcome is that he does go to Real Madrid. And, of course, he was offered according to Sky Italy, he was offered an 80 million sign-on fee in the summer. So Madrid have offered him everything possible to try and get him there already. I can't imagine they're going to pass up another opportunity. They probably are hoping that he doesn't sign a new deal, because then that would include a fee to PSG, because, of course, he'd be available in the summer on a free. It does feel strange that a player of this calibre would move for free. That's one thing I would say. These players don't often move for free. There's normally a fee involved, because they also want to be on the chart for most expensive players of all time. But I would assume this is the summer Mbappe finally goes to Madrid.
Right, well, we want your best ever loan signings. Keep your thoughts coming in. #transfer. We've had loads so far. The panel have got some up their sleeve as well. #transfer talk on X. Five in five, that's 5 teams in 5 minutes. I don't think you need any other explanation than that, OK? And the teams are behind us as well. We will start with Sheffield United, Ellen.
So Chris Wilder has said that it's going to be a very different window to ones that he's had before at the club. Obviously, his second spell as a manager, he says it's not going to be a wrecking ball window. I think we know that. We expected that. The fans expected that with the budget they've got. He wants players who can come straight into the matchday squad, straight into the starting 11. He's already bolstered the attack, bringing in Ben Brereton Diaz on loan from Villarreal, where he hadn't settled, he hadn't found the back of the net after signing from Blackburn Rovers, where he absolutely lit up the Championship. He really made a name for himself. He was brilliant to watch. One of the other places they've struggled in front of goal. They've also struggled for clean sheets. Only one in the league this season. He was asked about the position of keeper. He said every position is up for grabs and that the players already in those positions need to prove themselves if they're to stay in the squad. They're targeting a goalkeeper. That's the priority. Leicester City keeper Danny Ward is the name that's come up. No appearances for Leicester this season. The other name that's being touted around as well is Kasper Schmeichel.
Right, perfect. That was Ellen. Right, just the producer thinks I'm doing this to bamboozle him, but no, I changed the order of these so that it wasn't just Ellen, Dave, Nabeed. So, Dave, I'm sorry, we're going to West Ham next. Apologies to City Bop.
Yeah, West Ham. They're looking at forwards in this transfer window. Left-sided one in particular they're looking at is Sunderland's Jack Clarke. They are interested in signing him. They have a number of different options that they're looking at in this transfer window, West Ham, but Jack Clarke is one of their priorities. Sunderland under no pressure to sell. He's got 2.5 years left on his Sunderland contract, and he's Sunderland's top scorer, Tom, 12 goals this season. You wonder if that deal happens, whether there's an implication then and a knock-on for Said Benrahma at West Ham, but it certainly looks like they're looking to strengthen in the forward positions. Someone who is also a little bit versatile, can play left and right. So Jack Clarke is the one they're looking at the moment. Yeah,
but left wing back as well. He's played a lot for Sunderland too. Right, we're now going to Wolves, by the way. That's with Nabeed.
Hugo Ekitike, he's back on the show again. Not in physical, but we are going to talk about him. We've spoken about him a lot, of course, before we went to Paris. It's not really worked out over there. He's only played once this season. He's recently posted around his mental health, and I think he'd be struggling over there. Probably needs a change of scenery. Wolves have, of course, been linked to plenty of strikers. Obviously, we've mentioned Che Adams. Fabio Silva's gone to Rangers. Hasn't really worked for Sasa Kalajic just yet. Hwang is obviously away as well, so that leaves him a little bit short in the forward areas. So Ekitike, maybe on loan from Paris, might be an option.
Right, that brings us to Brighton, Ellen, and another potentially exciting signing.
Yeah, this is a player who we don't know a huge amount about yet, but I think he's one we're going to be shouting about in the future. Valentin Barco, Brighton close to agreeing. £7.9 million deal with Boca Juniors and the Argentina under-20 defender. Very versatile up the left wing, can play as a left back. Up and down the left side. We think he'll play a little bit further up the wing for Brighton. We spoke to Tim Vickery about him yesterday. Apparently he's got a mean left foot. 19-year-old have been linked to other Premier League clubs as well, but we know Brighton have such a good eye when it comes to recruitment. Tony Bloom doing a brilliant job there. This is a pool they've been dipping in and out of for a while now. Also a talent pool that we see Manchester City exploit as well. A player, as I say, that we could be getting quite excited about in the future.
Yeah, so Barco to Brighton, edging closer. Dave, we've gone down the Championship for West Brom.
Yeah, Carlos Corberán has really turned West Brom into strong playoff contenders this season. I think they are in need of some reinforcements, though. I mean, there's not a great deal of money to spend at West Brom. Obviously, the whole background at West Brom at the moment is a potential takeover. The fans are desperate for one. They deserve one as well over the next few weeks. And from their point of view, you hope that something develops on that one. But again, it's kind of wide positions that they're looking to strengthen at the moment in this January transfer window. Jeremy Sarmiento was recalled by Brighton and then sent back out on loan to a rival, which I'm sure West Brom fans are very thankful for. Matt Phillips is out injured. Grady Diangana's away now. And I think a real positive for West Brom this season has been Tom Fellows, a youngster that's come through. And this has been his real breakout season. But he's entering the final few months of his contract. They'll be hoping to renew. And for a young player, often, you know, you have to kind of almost factor in dips in form. So I think they'll be looking for someone a little bit more senior in this transfer window in those forward positions out wide. I think, you know, it's great to see Daryl Dike back. I've followed him for a long time. If you're not sure who Daryl Dike is, he was the guy that put dishwasher tablets in his washing machine. Check that out. But he's a great player, and he's had such a horrible set of injuries as well. He ruptured his Achilles last April, and he came back to score in the FA Cup, and he's a great player. So as long as West Brom can manage him, he'll give them some real depth up front.
And DK, according to a popular computer game, he was the second strongest player in the world behind Adebayo Akinfenwa a few years ago. That was when he was at Barnsley. Right, it's time. That was 5 minutes and 20 seconds, that was. But we're now talking about loan deals, OK? Remember, Timo Werner is on loan to Tottenham. That's got us thinking about that one there. That's got us thinking about your best ever loan deals we've had. Look, before we get to the panel, Cameron Ward's got a great one. Toby Alderweireld on loan from Atletico Madrid to Southampton. That was brilliant. Ian Farmer says Joe Rodon on loan to Leeds this season. He has been outstanding. Mark Trainis says Gareth Bale back to Tottenham on loan. And Chris Kirby's gone back a while. He's gone Ashley Cole from Arsenal to Crystal Palace in the year 2000. Sadly, Palace couldn't raise £2 million that Arsenal wanted. He went back to Highbury permanently, and the rest is history. Right, Dave, who have you gone for?
I went back a little while as well, and this for me is one of the loan signings that has worked out unbelievably well. I went Robert Huth, who joined Leicester on loan from Stoke City at the back end of the 2014-15 season, went to a side who were almost certain for relegation, and then after he joined, Leicester went on a run of 7 victories out of 9. They turned almost certain relegation into last gasp survival. And then whatever happened the following season, well, the rest is history. Robert Huth played a massive part in Leicester City winning the title.
Yeah, he certainly did. Tell you what, I've got a few more here to read out from the viewers. Jason Lane's gone Henrik Larsson to Manchester United, Romelu Lukaku to West Brom, Jurgen Klinsmann back to Tottenham, Ivan Campo to Bolton. That was originally a loan. Paul Walsh has gone Chris Con-Clark from Fleetwood to Altrincham in 2022. Owen's got Lukaku to West Brom, Arteta to Everton, and Larsson to Manchester United. Who's next? I can't remember if it was Nabeid or Ellen next. It is Ellen.
I'm going to drop down to the Championship. Mason Mount on loan to Derby, joined when he was 19 under Frank Lampard. It's his spell as Derby boss. Had a stunning spell. 11 goals, 6 assists in all competitions. Went on, unfortunately, to lose for them the playoff final to Aston Villa. But what a signing that was. 2018-19. And just looking back at the pictures earlier, I was like, this looks so weird. I'd forgotten this had happened.
Yeah, good one. Mark Cashmore's another Leicester one. He says Nathan Dyer to Leicester because not many loan players have won the Premier League. And another one here, William Baker says a player who helped massively was Mateo Kovacic, who was on loan to start at Chelsea before he signed permanently now, of course, at Manchester City. Right, Nabeid?
Gone for a throwback. 2003, 2004, that Monaco team, the iconic shirt. Fernando Morientes was loaned from Real Madrid to Monaco. I had to look back at this because I was convinced it was a permanent, and then he went back, but it wasn't apparently. 10 goals on loan in 28 games. Back then, of course, now Erling Haaland, Salah, Messi have made 10 goals seem very, very poor, but 10 was a good amount of goals for a loanee. Champions League runners-up in that famous season. A bit of a throwback team as well. They had Ludovic Giuli, Patrice Evra, Dado Perso, Adebayor. I think, like, if you Google that team, you'll know so many players and go, oh, I was there when this happened. So Fernando Morientes for me.
Yeah, good one. Right, I've enjoyed all of those. Nabeid, Dave and Ellen, thank you. Just a reminder of the massive story this morning. It looks like Tottenham have won the battle to sign Radu Drăgușin, the centre-back from Genoa. It means that Jed Spence will go out to Italy on loan as part of the deal. And what does it mean for Eric Dyer? It means that Bayern Munich, who are also after Drăgușin, they have now made Eric Dyer from Tottenham their #1 target. So that story has got a massive knock-on effect for a few players. Right, this is Good Morning Transfers, which is back tomorrow at the same time, 9 o'clock until 10 o'clock in the morning. And we've got plenty more to come today because this team are back here. Transfer Talkers at midday, and we're going live to France for the latest on Mbappe, amongst others. Full roundup of the day's transfer news on the Transfer Show at 5 p.m. and at 7 p.m. as well. Now, next up, it's the Football Show. They'll be reflecting on Chelsea's defeat to Middlesbrough last night in the EFL Cup semi-final first leg.